Today, we'll watch a video from CNBC where they went to China to see how BYD, NIO, and other Chinese electric vehicles compare to Tesla. We'll also update you on how BYD is doing with their 18 vehicle models. In general, as you'll see in the video, the Chinese automakers are doing a fantastic job lowering costs and at the same time adding new technology. With 140 brands in China, these automakers find the need to stand out by introducing new whiz-bang features like refrigerators or AI. But as you'll see, many of them still have a lot of work to do for performance and quality. And for now, none of these automakers, except for maybe BYD and of course Tesla, are profitable. Larry Goldberg with us, and he's going to help us understand the Chinese auto market better. We're going to watch some new videos. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thanks, Herbert. Great to be here.
Let me kick it off first with a slide about how BYD is doing, and then we'll go into the videos to show the actual cars in China and how they perform and how they differ. So here we've got AJ explaining how BYD versus Tesla China sales in the last month, July, and you can see that BYD is 33% more revenue than Tesla in July with 18 models. They've got 18 different models versus Tesla's 2 models. And of course, you got to keep in mind that they actually don't compete. People think that they're competitors. They are, in the sense that they're the 2 largest electric vehicle makers, but there's actually only a 15% overlap between the Model 3s and Model Y prices, the segments of who they sell to versus all the BYDs, which is really, really low priced. Yeah, any thoughts on this table?
Well, BYD is clearly the volume leader by far. And right now, it's been a little bit choppy, their profitability and revenue, but they are more profitable. They have become more profitable. But BYD occupies a different space, and the space that Tesla occupies, it has pretty much been the sole occupant of that particular position. What will be interesting is what's coming down the pike for Tesla in the next year or two as Tesla adds higher volume, lower priced models to their lineup.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So if you look at this, you've got 18 models for BYD, 2 models for Tesla. What happens when Tesla adds 2 more affordable cars? That's coming. And then what happens when Tesla introduces robotaxi or even more effective ADAS systems, right? Full self-driving.
Yeah, I mean, let's tackle the first issue first, and that is once they introduce 2 new lower priced models, for example, I mean, I don't know how many they'll introduce, but if they introduce 2, what you'll see is a relative decline in Model Y and Model 3 sales, but you'll see a massive increase in the other models. And so this particular deck is going to change in character and in shape. And I suspect that Tesla will probably compete directly in volumes with 4 models with BYD as they do with 2 models. That's where I think it's going.
I absolutely agree. And then, of course, we'll talk about later what happens when they've got autopilot and full self-driving. And then profitability, that's still a question mark for BYD. Let's go ahead and watch the video that CNBC launched where they went into China. They tested out a bunch of Chinese automakers and they're trying to compare to Tesla.
How formidable are Chinese EVs? How do they stack up against the world's most popular model, the Tesla Model Y? CNBC tried a few to find out.
So this is the Tesla Model Y. This is currently the best-selling car in the world.
Woo! The acceleration on these things is incredible.
Tesla is a really highly respected brand in China, but homegrown Chinese automakers are really catching up.
And in some cases, surpassing. In fact, there are around 140 EV brands in the country. And at least in China, some of them are outselling Tesla. This is Eunice Yoon, CNBC's Beijing bureau chief. She set out to try some of the Chinese crossovers comparable to the Model Y. With a few technical exceptions like Chinese-owned brands such as Volvo, Polestar, and Lotus, Chinese cars aren't available in the US yet.
I was surprised myself driving these cars.
First, let's address price. The BYD Tang, for example. made by Tesla's biggest Chinese rival. BYD is known for making cars very cheaply.
One of BYD's big selling points is that they're able to give you a car that is a 7-seater, a little bit of a shorter range than a Model Y, but at the same time, it's $11,000 cheaper.
How do they get the cost down that much? Well, and then we get into that kind of secret Chinese superpower of state capitalism, where you have entrepreneurs driving costs down, innovating, designing better product, while at the same time getting tremendous support from city, provincial, and national political leaders who want China to win.
Between 2009 and 2023, the Chinese government handed out an estimated $231 billion in subsidies and tax breaks. BYD, which is not government-owned, received $3.7 billion in direct subsidies between 2018 and 2022, most of it in that last year. But one of BYD's biggest advantages is its ability to drive down costs through vertical integration. BYD sold roughly 3 million cars in 2023, about half of them electric and half plug-in hybrid. This year, they're forecasting 4 million. Contrast that with Tesla, which saw sales fall year over year in the first 2 quarters of 2024. BYD is also one of the largest battery makers. About 40% of China's cost advantage is attributable to its engine batteries, which make up about 20 to 30% of a vehicle's total cost.
BYD has done a phenomenal job of making in-house 75–80% of the parts that go into their cars. So they own the batteries and the battery supply chains. That's clear, and it contributes to lower cost and higher quality.
And then apart from batteries, pretty much across every other category, BYD's costs are lower than its Chinese competitors, Tesla, and drastically lower than legacy competitors like Ford and GM. But all Chinese automakers benefit from low costs and a localized supply chain. This can be seen in the G6 from XPeng, a relatively small company that listed on the New York Stock Exchange in 2020. It hasn't done so well, although results were solid in the last 2 quarters of 2023.
What's their pitch to the consumer? What made them different from the others?
Price. So they have a lot of other features in there as well. So we were in the XPeng G6. When you look at the specs and the dimensions, it's almost identical to the Model Y.
But at $27K, it's almost $9,000 cheaper.
This is crucial. Chinese cars aren't just cheap. They offer value for money.
What Henry Ford did to this industry is he took something that was a rich person's toy and made it so that anybody working in a factory could afford it. China is democratizing the smart EV.
Okay, so good overview. Price is what they're doing, but they don't talk about the fact that sometimes they're saying, oh, we're comparing it to the Model Y, and then they talk about another car that is priced lower. That's because the quality is lower, which they'll address later. So I just want to make sure people are not going, oh my God, the competitors are out there. Tesla's still #1 sales, still the best brand, by the way. That came out just yesterday in China, #1 brand. So I want to make sure that they're comparing apples to apples.
Right, but Tesla is dramatically more expensive, even model to model. And Tesla can command that difference. And by the way, that difference translates directly into margin. Tesla's margins are significantly higher than any of the Chinese manufacturers. And this in the long term is going to pay in spades. The reality is that, that as Tesla builds its cash balances, and it becomes more and more and more competitive because it can afford to continually improve and improve. So over time, the value add of those additional revenues, given Tesla's cautious use of money and its cautious expenditures, I think will also translate into a very strong position. But Tesla's got an incredible name in China, and it continues to sell at 11,000 or 7,000 or whatever they say. It's more expensive than the Chinese direct competitor. It continues to sell extremely well in its niche.
And then, like you said, Tesla's margins is significant. None of these car companies, it's a bloodbath. So all of these 140 brands in China, none of them are making profit. And then you saw BYD maybe, but they're being propped up. They're trying to establish a new industry. And so it's fine that they're doing this. But so Tesla has margins, and so they're priced 11,000. That's because they can make more. But if they needed to, they can bring it down. I was just reacting to that.
Let's add one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
This competition is really good for Tesla because it pushes Tesla extremely hard, both on pricing and on value add. You know, Tesla's been roundly criticized by the analyst community for dropping prices. But people don't understand. They're going to have to drop prices, and they're going to have to drop prices even further.
Yep. Because
what they're competing with is not just the US manufacturers of EVs. On the contrary, Tesla's competing against the world, absolutely the entire world of all vehicles manufactured anywhere in the world. And Tesla's, its mission is to bring EVs to the world. And the only way they're going to do that is to reduce the price, and reduce the price.
Okay, let's move forward. So this is a bloodbath there. There's all these companies. They're doing really well. You can see that there'll be a new segment I'll play where they talk about the quality is an issue, which may not last long, right? These guys will catch up. But in their effort to sell cars, there's so many brands in China, they're all competing with each other with different kinds of value propositions, new tech. They call it the smart EV. Let's watch this.
Smart is the key word here. This means connected to the internet and loaded with tech.
Chinese EVs tend to have a lot of bells and whistles. For example, I could ventilate my seat to deal with the summer heat.
Oh, yeah, I can feel it.
I could change a setting so that this EV sounds as though it's running on gas. And I could tell the AI assistant to park the car without me. This is very handy.
EV makers leverage these affordable tech features to target specific customers. This could be said of the Li Auto L6. Shares of its NASDAQ-listed manufacturer, $20 billion market cap, have had a rocky time while the company carves out its brand identity.
Li Auto does market itself as more of a family type of car maker.
To pull that off, the company offers extras you won't find in a Tesla. Technically, this one wasn't an EV. It has a gas-powered range extender on board. The extender appeals to road-tripping families or the many drivers stuck for hours in the city's notorious gridlock.
Li Auto's L6 is about the same price as a Model Y, but has a longer range at 893 miles. So we are driving during rush hour in Beijing traffic, but this 5-seater is designed for families, and in a Chinese context, that means that a lot of extra creature comforts are common in the cabin. Family in the front seats can watch TV or get massaged by their chairs, and if you want a cold drink, there's a fridge in the back.
At the higher end, there are innovations that companies like Tesla have only talked about. Take NIO, for example. It was a hyped IPO on the NYSE back in 2018, but shares are down 90% from a 2021 high due to sluggish sales growth and high cash burn. The company is relatively small, with a $9 billion market cap, and it only sells electric vehicles, about 160,000 of them in 2023. NIO has had its own way of dealing with charging challenges. Battery swapping, something that Tesla had considered. NIO actually did it.
If you want to swap your battery, first you find a station. You check what batteries they have, and then you place the order.
There are 3,500 battery swapping stations around the country, most of which are NIO's.
So we're 92% charged, and that took a little less than 10 minutes.
Well, they say 3 minutes. My experience was about a little under 10.
It's not difficult to find charging points here in Beijing. This map says 8 out of the 10 near me are available. China currently has 3 million public charging facilities.
A lot of China auto industry analysts say the tech-forward features in and around these cars are really where Chinese automakers have a leg up on global competition. They are turning cars into connected devices that can work within the larger Internet of Things.
The AI assistant Nomi is a draw as well. While other car AI systems respond to direct voice commands such as turn off the air conditioner, people on social media say that Nomi sounds more like a person. Hey Nomi, I feel so cold. 我很冷.
So, for example, instead of saying, turn off the air conditioner, I would say, oh, I'm feeling really cold right now. And then it would say, oh, okay. And then it starts, I was like, how about I just turn down the air conditioner?
I mean, that's where Tesla can do the same thing. I mean, that's what they're talking about as well now. What's your thoughts about these features that they're all adding to each other? They're all trying to beat each other almost too. It's not just trying to dethrone Tesla.
It's the name of the game. It's the name of the game. Some of these innovations will become very important and will be adopted. I think some of these innovations will fall by the wayside. But, you know, Tesla has its own path. I mean, if Tesla hadn't happened, none of what you see there would be happening at all, period. Tesla is the archetype and will continue to be the archetype. We'll see what happens with the integration of Grok into the car. I think it's going to be very revolutionary. So, you know, this is fantastic. This is fantastic competition for Tesla. This is so much better than the US automakers are doing. I mean, it's laughable, actually, what the US automakers are doing in comparison. So, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it's very good. And these technologies allow them to then sell a subscription. And that's where maybe they're going to get their margins as well as the prices go down. So that's why mass sales is what's critical at this point. And then you can upcharge them later, like Apple does.
I suspect that the number of Chinese automakers will go down by 70% within 5 years.
Yeah.
But those that remain, the 30% that remain, will be very, very, very strong. Very strong indeed. You know, I had somebody on X whom I was having a debate with about Tesla, Tesla bear.
I saw it.
But, you know, very, very well educated, very experienced trader. He actually went to China, and he told me about how the German automakers were going to swamp. This was 4 years ago. Going to swamp Tesla within 3 years, and you know he proved to be wrong. And by the way, it was stand up to admit when I challenged him, and you know I had bookmarked his prediction about what Volkswagen was going to do to Tesla within 3 years. I posted it, and he said, "Yeah, I was wrong." And then he went on to say how the Chinese automakers were going to best Tesla. And I bet you he's quite happy to admit now that he was wrong. I mean, Tesla remains incredibly profitable, incredibly popular. In fact, it's probably more popular in China than it is in the United States. In the United States, there's this political hoo-ha going on. Nothing like that in China. In China, Tesla's name is, you know, it's the top brand in China.
And by the time the Chinese catch up, and they will, in quality, in features, and even maybe the brand equity, at that point, Tesla's going to start showing off robotaxi and autonomy. And they're always thinking ahead, at least Elon is. Let me show you the downsides of these Chinese car companies. So far we've seen that there's many of them out there. They look great. They're priced cheaper, more affordable, and they've got all these whiz-bang features. But let's listen a little bit to their report on the downsides.
EV comes with its own costs.
What struck me about all of these Chinese EVs is how they didn't focus as much on performance, and it kind of showed. When I was in the Model Y, you could have pretty good control in the car, and that wasn't really the case on the whole for the cars that we were in that were from the Chinese EV makers. You didn't have that same level of precision when you were making a turn, for example. And in fact, that's a trend and something that is almost common knowledge among Chinese drivers. They'll talk about, oh, there's the Tesla, there's the Model Y, the Model 3, they're the performance cars.
And one reason Chinese car makers can keep prices low might be that they sometimes don't offer more bang for buck. They make compromises.
You could really tell the difference from the ones that were pricier. They had nicer finishes, they had nicer interiors, they felt better. There weren't as many kind of jinky or odd designs that were inside the car. For example, in one of the cars that I was in, the steering wheel was kind of off compared to where I'd be sitting. The windshield wipers was placed in an odd place for my hand.
And even the premium vehicles show signs that these are new companies, new models, new designs, And automakers haven't worked out a lot of the kinks yet.
There's one car that I was in that had really nice leather chairs, but the way that the chairs moved, when you're driving, it's just squeaking the entire time. One of the other models that I was in, it was so loud. Maybe these Chinese companies still don't have it down.
Okay, so that's they're going to catch up. This is quality. This is scale. They're just starting. They'll catch up. Chinese automakers, we know.
Survive, and someone survive.
Yeah. So I thought that was good for us to get a baseline. We know that the Chinese automakers are doing incredibly well. But the point is, it's basically Tesla. And as Elon has said in the past, it's going to be Tesla. And the top 10 is going to be 9. The others will be 9 Chinese companies. What we haven't talked about is how poorly the GM we just did a show yesterday, 2 days ago, that they're cutting employees. Volkswagen is delaying their EV that they promised they were going to make. So they're all struggling very much.
I was challenged yesterday on X about GM's gone up by X dollars and this year, and Tesla's gone down by X dollars. I said, well, when GM was relisted in 2011, 2011, and compared to today, GM has gone up by about $4 on $40, some ridiculously small number. Tesla in that time has gone up by X 1,000%, or 1,000 and X percent. How do you compare a company? And I mean, honestly, GM, I think, is in serious trouble. That would be my guess. I think by 2030, GM has gone insolvent again. I think the pieces are going to be cut into pieces. I don't know what's going to happen. Ford will, I think, survive. I think they're doing a lot of stuff which may or may not work, but it's still family controlled. And that means a lot. It means that somebody is actually deadly serious. They're not worried about their retirement and their pension and just making sure they get there and they get covered. So I think there are a lot of problems for the US automakers, not to mention Stellantis. Oh my.
The other point that I was told that I'm understanding is that, okay, so China has started to get into electric vehicles. That's an industry they want to win. The government and states are absolutely supporting them, giving them subsidies and so forth. 140 brands came out and they're all trying to vie for it. And many of them are going after the lower cost segment, right? More affordable cars, and they're doing really well. However, the problem is, as you saw, when you have to, in order to get low cost, it's not safe. These cars are not safe, but there's no options. What happens when Tesla comes out and is like the safest car? You're putting your family in there. This is what this CNBC reporter ended up saying at the end was, you're putting your family in there. You're going to want something safe. And if you have a more affordable car that's actually, I'm just keep referring to Tesla's FSD as an ADAS. Just forget robotaxi for now if you don't believe in that. But just the fact that it's safe, it's much safer to be in a car that has 8 cameras, that it has intelligence to be able to, that's the ultimate whiz-bang feature. Whether you want a refrigerator in the back, ventilated seats we already have, all these other whiz-bang features. But the most important one is safety.
But just understand that Tesla's always going to be the premium product.
Yeah.
Like the iPhone, Tesla's numbers are going to be at the lower level, but their revenue is going to be at the higher level. So Tesla's revenue is always going to be significantly greater than their competitors, given the volume of cars they sell.
Well, just to clarify, I don't agree that they're going to be at the premium product. Tesla is driven by a mission, which is accelerate sustainable energy. And which means that they're very willing to sell you a more affordable sub $35,000 car.
A more affordable sub $35,000 car does not mean lower quality at all.
No, I know. Well, yeah. So we're speaking the right language. I'm just saying that doesn't have to be
the most expensive
luxury. It doesn't have to be luxury.
It doesn't have to be luxury, but it's going to have to be quality, and that's the key.
That's the key. Okay, love it. Thank you so much, Larry. This is great. We got a good state of the nation. What's going on in China? We've done many shows about what happens when they try to invade Europe and the U.S. But of course, US has put in tariffs. There's plans to even limit data, software. So it may be harder for the Chinese brands to break into it. But we just heard yesterday, Polestar just launched their North Carolina plant. And so they're now selling their Chinese-made car in, well, it's no longer Chinese-made, it's made in the US, so they can bypass these things. So that's what we're going to see next, is factories pop up directly in the US and also in Mexico. So anything else? Yep.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. The Polestar factory is just down the road from me and just around the corner from my daughter, actually.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you so much, Larry. Follow him on X at TSLA Larry. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.